What's up guys, welcome back to Destiny Updates. We have a couple very interesting things to go over today, so let's get right into it. The first and most exciting of which comes from the latest Breaking In article over on the Bungie blog. If you don't know, Breaking In is a series where they interview a Bungie employee every week and talk about how he got to Bungie, what he does there, that sort of thing. This week they interviewed Rajiv Natam, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. And he's a 3D artist at Bungie. He's part of the team responsible for all the awesome weapons and vehicles in Destiny. Now in the interview he was asked, what is the one thing you are most excited to contribute to Destiny? And he replied, weapons. I can't wait for players to ogle, collect, and fire all the awesome weaponry we've put together for them. Destiny has more weapons than all the Halo games put together, squared and then squared again. Now I went back and calculated out, if you take that figure literally, which I wouldn't advise doing, I'm sure it was meant more as a generalization, not a literal figure, but if you were to take that literally, the amount of weapons in Destiny would be 1,336,336. Now again, I don't think that was meant as a literal figure, more as a generalization, and that was only a rough calculation on my part, I could be wrong. But that doesn't really matter, because what matters is that there will be over 1 million unique weapons in Destiny, a frickin' million. Now that has to mean that Destiny will use a procedurally generated weapon system just like Borderlands does, and basically how that works is the computer automatically generates unique weapons constantly that are based on similar styles, but completely changed around using accessories and different customizations. Like for instance, a lot of heavy machine guns will probably be based on a similar base design and they're going to have the same core structure, but they're all going to be unique in terms of colors, attachments, accessories, stuff like that. Now I think this is really cool myself, it should make the game stay a lot more interesting. Instead of finding the same exact weapon in every dungeon, you'll constantly be finding new interesting things to take. Even if all the weapons in specific categories, for instance heavy machine guns or pistols, are all based on a handful of core designs, that many unique variations with attachments and customizations is still just awesome. Now again, I don't think that exact number I mentioned should be taken seriously at all. That was just a casual interview and it was meant as a generalization, I'm sure. So no exact numbers are confirmed, and a procedurally generated weapon system like I just talked about is not confirmed either, but what is confirmed is that there will be an absolute crapload of weapons in Destiny. I think it's definitely safe to say that there will be over 1 million weapons in Destiny. I think that's pretty much confirmed, that's pretty safe to say. And in order for that to happen, I think a procedurally generated weapon system like I talked about is the only logical way to do it, so I'm sure that's how it's going to be. Which is again what Borderlands already does, and I think Borderlands 2 I read somewhere has like 17 million weapons or something along those lines, so it's insane. Now there's another important thing to talk about, but real quick before we get into that, make sure you let me know in the comments what you think about a procedurally generated weapon type system. Are you for it, or do you like to have a set number of weapons that you know what each of them exactly is and, you know, like Halo has? Personally, I think this is really exciting and great for a game like Destiny that's all about exploration and finding gear and customizing your character. I think it'll make a huge difference, and that kind of weapon variety is just awesome. And actually, I think it might be kind of cool if they did something like this for vehicles too. I mean, not like completely change each and every vehicle, but if every vehicle you come across had, you know, a slightly different color design or some little attachment that made it unique in some way, I think that'd be pretty cool. But anyways, make sure you let me know in the comments. I'd like to see what the general opinion is on this to see if people like this or don't like it. Now onto the next piece of news. Some of you may remember I covered something a while back where a system called Umbra was being used in Destiny. If you missed that or may have forgotten, Umbra is a tool that's used in video game engines, and it sort of manages what visual elements you see on screen. Well, they actually had a presentation at GDC a number of weeks back, and the senior graphics designer Hao Chen from Bungie was actually part of this. And although they really didn't talk about Destiny a whole lot, the talk was very technical and meant for game designers, not really for consumers like us. There were still a number of kind of general points that I found interesting, as well as one specific thing as well, so let's go over it real quick. Hao Chen talked about more than once how Destiny has a very large, expansive, open-world exterior, and the whole thing definitely supported what we already pretty much knew, which is that Destiny has a very large, open, free-roam type world. Now aside from the expansive, open-world exterior that he mentioned, he also talked about how Destiny will have a lot of buildings with very complex interior environments as well. And continuing with that, he also said that a lot of the pieces they use to build things in Destiny are compositional and can be reused. Now I think what that meant is that using the engine, they can just take pieces that they've already used for previous buildings and use them as parts of a whole new building. Now I don't think that'll really affect how the buildings look to us, to be honest, because if you think about it, in pretty much every game, each area where you go, the buildings have a same general look. They have a sort of theme that they all follow in that area. Pretty much every game that's done that, Halo has always done that, so I don't think it'll really affect us all that much. But what it does affect is the artists. It means that they can put together buildings with a similar theme much more quickly, which in turn means they can populate an area with a lot of structures very quickly and easily. So that basically means that much bigger, more awesome areas can be made a lot more easily, which means we should be able to get a lot more of them. Now the final and most interesting thing here is that he talked about how big the maps or areas will be in Destiny. Now before I tell you what it is, it's important to point out that this is more from a technical standpoint, and this means it's the size of the world that the game will load up all at once. So basically, it's the size of the map that you can just roam around on and you can see everything all at once without having to go through any sort of loading screens or anything like that. This is what's all preloaded and ready to go. So now to actually tell you what it is, the size of the individual maps in Destiny is 3 kilometers by 3 kilometers. Here in the US, that's about 1.8 miles by 1.8 miles. Now I'm not really sure what the size of other game environments tend to be, but for a single map that you can go from one side to the other without any sort of loading screens or menus or anything like that, that seems quite large to me. Now again, just to be clear, that's not the size of worlds in Destiny, that's just the size of an individual map. So for example, if you were to go to Mars, I'm sure Mars as a whole is much larger than 3 kilometers by 3 kilometers, but once you're on Mars, specific areas of the planet might be 3 kilometers by 3 kilometers. For example, in my video where I went over all the locations on Mars, the buried city might be 3 kilometers by 3 kilometers. Hopefully you can see what I'm trying to get at here. This is for individual areas, not the entire world. And it's also very possible that individual areas, such as the buried city, could be even bigger than that. It would just require a loading screen in order to progress further. So again, I'm really not sure how that compares to map sizes in other video games, I really have no idea, but in real life terms it seems like quite a bit. If you're in a vehicle, maybe not so much, you can probably cross it quite quickly, but if you're on foot, that's a big piece of ground. So anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I know I got pretty excited about this. I think the procedurally generated weapon system is going to be awesome in Destiny. Again, let me know what you think about that. I definitely want to hear your thoughts. If you did enjoy the video, please consider hitting that like button. It definitely helps me out a lot. It helps get the news out there to other people. It helps spread the channel more. So it definitely is very much appreciated. Of course, only if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't, then don't do it. But once again, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the latest Destiny news, and I'll see you in the next update.